How do you defend against a weak color complex? Have you ever found yourself struggling with a weak color complex in chess? It can be a tricky situation, but understanding how to defend against it can really help your game. A weak color complex happens when your pawns create weak squares of the same color that are hard to defend. This can give your opponent a chance to place their pieces on those squares and gain an advantage. Let's break down some effective strategies to tackle this issue. First, it is essential to understand what weak squares are. These are squares that lack protection or are difficult to defend. When multiple weak squares of the same color exist, you have a weak color complex. This can be a long-term problem since pawns cannot move backward, making those weaknesses permanent. One of the best ways to defend against a weak color complex is to maintain a balance of your pieces. If you have a weak dark squared complex, for example, keeping a dark squared bishop can help defend those critical squares. Your pieces should be positioned to control these weak squares effectively. Another important strategy is to manage your pawn structure. Be cautious about moving your pawns to the same color, especially in the center of the board. This will help minimize the creation of weak squares. Keeping a diverse pawn structure can make it harder for your opponent to exploit weaknesses. Creating counterplay is also a smart move. If your opponent is focusing on your weak squares, try to create weaknesses on their side of the board. This can distract them and give you the initiative to attack elsewhere. When it comes to piece placement, aim to position your pieces on squares where they can defend weak squares or threaten your opponent's position. A knight on a strong outpost can control key squares and deter your opponent from launching an attack. In the endgame, controlling key squares becomes even more critical. Use your remaining pieces to block your opponent from occupying weak squares. You can also use your pawns to create barriers, making it difficult for them to advance. During the opening phase, focus on developing your pieces quickly and controlling central squares. This will help prevent weak color complexes from forming early in the game. In the middle game, identify your opponent's weak color complex and plan your attacks accordingly. Trading off pieces that defend these squares can make them more vulnerable. By implementing these strategies, you can effectively defend against a weak color complex and potentially turn the tables on your opponent. Remember, the key is to stay aware of your pawn structure, maintain piece balance, and create opportunities for counterplay.